Afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today. As Gary mentioned, I will be walking you through part 2 of today's presentation, which focuses on our new landscape and the challenges that have been considered in our fiscal year 22 financial plan. This way? Got it. Okay, so first the objectives and takeaways of today's presentation. We'll highlight the current financial landscape, and then we'll talk about the actions we are taking. So for our agenda, we'll talk about who we are and our resilience, and then we'll jump right into our new landscape discussion, which is made up of 3 components: maintaining operations and support, our growth, pandemic, and then the winter storm Yuri. And then we'll finish up with a conversation on what's next. So this slide highlights CPS Energy and the strength of our company. We have 161 years of history backed by 3,000 employees, a strong and diverse customer base, strong financials, and strong credit ratings. So on this slide, we present our guiding pillars. This is just a reminder that we balance these guiding pillars, and all our business decisions are based on a foundation of financial responsibility. You saw this slide a little bit earlier. It just represents a year in review, and as we look back at fiscal year 2021 and some of the challenges that we faced and overcame, it's just a great example of how resilient our people are. So here we are now, with a year like fiscal year 2021 under our belts, and fiscal year 22 is already not shaping up to be a typical budget year. We are faced with customer growth and service level expectations, and in addition to the continuing impacts of COVID, we now have Winter Storm Yuri costs to contend with. We also don't anticipate the high wholesale revenues that we've experienced in past years. So it's a combination of all of these factors that are shifting our landscape and creating new challenges. So this slide shows the 3 key challenges that are adding the pressures to our financial plan. And I'll be covering each one of these in detail in the next few slides. But before we leave this, I just wanted to emphasize that as we navigate this new landscape, affordability is going to be a primary focus as we determine the impact of these items on customer bills. So jumping into maintaining operations, so we deliver value to the community through our essential services. Our ability to provide these services is our priority, and on this slide we show just a few of the recognitions that we've received, but our main takeaway here is that our goal is to continue to provide this high level of customer service to our community. So while the pandemic and Winter Storm Yuri continue to create challenges, San Antonio continues to grow, and that population growth will impact our community in many ways. With 1.1 million more people expected by the year 2040, accommodating that growth in our community will be a priority. But however, with that will come additional financial pressures. Okay, so this slide shows the trend of electric retail revenue in our forecast. As anticipated due to COVID, we saw a 2.2% decrease in total system sales in fiscal year 2021. And although we reported an increase in residential sales due to people working from home and students remote learning, that increase was offset by a decline in other sectors such as churches and hotel and food services. So as a result, our electric forecast for fiscal year 22 and 23, as shown in the blue bars, it assumes a similar 2% decrease in total volumes in comparison to our previous plan for those same years, which is in the orange bars. So the main takeaway here is that when we look at the blue bars, we still anticipate growth in fiscal year 22 and 23 in comparison to 2021. However, that growth is not at the same level that we've seen in the past. So an additional challenge to our fiscal year 22 plan is lower wholesale revenues. We are seeing less pressures on the ERCOT reserve margin due to larger volumes of renewables. This drives lower prices, which leads to lower wholesale revenues. And as you've heard us say before, wholesale revenues are used to reduce the amount to be recovered from customers. Without this offset, this adds additional pressure to our residential customers. So this is a view of the cyclical nature of wholesale. We've had some really good years in fiscal year 19 and 20. However, we did see a decline in fiscal year 2021, mainly driven by higher renewables and natural gas. And that trend is expected to continue into fiscal year 22 and 23. Main point here is that with wholesale revenues, we are not assured success every year. So with the pandemic still looming and the impacts of Winter Storm Yuri, we expect fiscal year 22 to be a very financially challenging year. In response to that financial pressure, we have implemented a short-term strategy of prioritization and cost control. So we continue to prioritize our essential services while deferring projects wherever we can. We have also implemented some temporary mitigations, including strategic hiring freeze and suspension of merit, wage increase, and the employee incentive plan. And we'll continue to search for state and local COVID-19 funding, but unfortunately, that has been limited up to this point. And so although we've kept fiscal year 22 non-fuel O&M relatively flat, we're still seeing some underlying drivers that make this a very challenging year. So this slide demonstrates that we've accommodated growth efficiently into our non-fuel O&M. The increase we see here from year to year is due to a second refueling outage at STP, which is a planned event. So moving on to the pandemic. So in addition to impacting our sales, COVID has impacted our receivables. And as these graphics depict, this is not just a local issue, as similar impacts have been felt globally. So as we've continued working with our customers during the pandemic, we have seen our past due customer balances grow. This chart shows June of 2020 through March 2021 balances. So the green shading within the bar are current receivables. And the blue shading, those are just different variations of past due balances. So the past due balances have been growing at an average of $7 million per month since the beginning of the summer. And the total past due balances, again, the blue part of the bar, they're becoming a larger percentage of our total customer receivables. We are currently at 42% in comparison to 25% in the prior year. So as we saw in the slide before, the increase in past due balances leads to bad debt write-offs. This has introduced now an uncertainty of recovery for the services that we provide, and this is a direct impact to our cash flow. Our bad debt projection, which typically is less than 1%, it is now anticipated to be over 2% of retail revenue in fiscal year 22. So because we are a cost recovery business, this situation is driving financial pressures. And so when some customers do not pay, others must pay to maintain stability. This is a slide that Deanna presented, and she did a really good job in describing some of these programs. Same message here. We will continue to support our customers by connecting them with bill assistance resources. And now Winter Storm Yuri. So you've seen this slide before, and we use it to emphasize just the extreme cold weather that we experienced. We sustained below freezing temperatures for 5 days in San Antonio, and that broke a record that was previously set in 1959. Now, of course, the situation led to high demand for energy and natural gas. So here's a summary of our best estimate of the total impact of this event. On the table on this slide, you'll see that natural gas maximum estimated cost is $670 million. while purchase power in ERCOT is $365 million. So the total maximum cost is a little over $1 billion. So as we've reported, we are continuing to pursue multiple options to reduce these costs to a justified and legitimate level. And also, we will continue to follow prudent business practices, but we will continue to work on protecting our customers. So in summary, our financial plan for fiscal year 22 is facing some key challenges. Some of these financial pressures we have not seen before. As we discussed, San Antonio growth, plus the projected decline in wholesale revenues and to some degree in retail revenues also, that's impacting our ability to maintain our normal operations. We're also facing challenges from the pandemic and Winter Storm Yuri. So the financial services team is working to update the financial plan to ensure sustainability. And again, another reminder is that as we navigate this new landscape, affordability is going to be a primary focus. So what's next? So we'll continue helping our customers through these challenging times. We will also continue protecting our customers as we fight to reduce Winter Storm Yuri costs. And then in May, we'll be back to review the sustainability approach and the budget with the board. And as always, we'll keep you updated through this process. And that concludes my presentation.